The night sky has always been a canvas of wonder, filled with stars, planets, and mysteries that remind us how small we truly are. But on October 29th, 2025, something extraordinary appeared in that endless darkness. Astronomers around the world turned their telescopes toward one single point in the heavens. An object moving too fast, too heavy, and too precise to fit any model we know. They named it C3I Atlas. At first, everyone assumed it was a comet, another frozen traveler pulled from the outer reaches of space. But that assumption would not last long. From the very beginning, C3I Atlas defied every rule of motion, every expectation that science had about how the universe behaves. It wasn't just moving, it was performing. Its speed reached over 200 kilometers per second. Its path cut across the solar system in a way that no comet should. Its mass, 33 million tons, was immense. Yet somehow, it was following a trajectory that didn't match any gravitational pattern ever recorded. For scientists, that was the first red flag. Theories built for centuries were suddenly trembling. In astrophysics, there are models for almost everything, for how planets form, how comets evaporate, how stars die. But Atlas didn't fit into any of them. It moved like something aware of where it was going. It reacted to the sun in ways no natural body should. Discovered in July 2025 by a high-powered observatory in Chile, C3I Atlas quickly became the obsession of astronomers, cosmologists, and astrophysicists around the world. Within weeks, its name was on every scientific forum, every space news headline, every late-night podcast. It was moving on a hyperbolic trajectory, meaning it didn't belong to our solar system. It was just passing through, like a messenger from a distant star. But that messenger was strange. Its orbit was almost perfectly flat, just 5 degrees off the plane of the ecliptic. For an interstellar object, that's almost impossible. It's as if it intentionally chose a route that aligns with the paths of our planets. That alone raised eyebrows. Then came the second anomaly. When its faint tail became visible, it appeared to be pointing in the wrong direction. Normally, a comet's tail stretches away from the sun, pushed by solar wind and radiation. But C3I Atlas broke that rule. Its tail seemed to face the sun, like a ship turning against the current. Scientists called it an anti-tail, a phenomenon so rare it's nearly mythical. At first, they thought it was an illusion caused by viewing angles. But repeated observations from Chile, South Africa, and Spain confirmed it. The tail was genuinely reversed. That was when Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb entered the conversation. Loeb, one of the most respected voices in astrophysics, isn't afraid of controversy. He once suggested that the first interstellar object, Oumuamua, might have been a technological relic from another civilization. Now, faced with C3I Atlas, he couldn't ignore the patterns. According to him, this object was not behaving like a natural comet at all. Its reflectivity, its motion, and even its composition pointed to something more, something deliberate. Spectroscopic data revealed another surprise. Instead of ice and dust, the surface of C3I Atlas was rich in heavy metals, especially nickel. That alone was enough to cause debate. Nickel, in such purity, doesn't appear naturally in comets. It's an industrial signature, a product of processes similar to those humans use to forge alloys. But there was more. The comet's water content was unusually low, only around 4%, compared to the 60 to 80% typical of comets. That dryness, combined with its metallic composition, made it an outlier among all celestial bodies ever studied. And then came the age. Based on spectroscopic models and orbital analysis, C3I Atlas was estimated to be nearly 10 billion years old, older than most stars in the Milky Way. If true, it would mean the object was formed when the universe itself was still young, possibly from the first generation of planetary systems. That makes it a kind of cosmic fossil, one that might carry traces of the earliest chemistry in existence. But to some, that explanation didn't sit right. How could an object that old, that heavy, and that dry still be active? How could it survive for 10 billion years and still show controlled movement? Professor Loeb put forward a daring possibility. What if C3I Atlas wasn't natural at all? What if it was engineered an interstellar probe, designed and launched by a civilization far older and more advanced than ours? The idea sent shockwaves through the scientific community. For some, it sounded like science fiction. For others, it echoed a growing suspicion that the universe might be far more crowded than we imagine. History has shown that bold ideas often begin as heresies before becoming revolutions. Loeb compared the situation to the first submarines that descended into the deep ocean. Back then, scientists discovered creatures no one believed could exist, beings that thrived in conditions once thought impossible. Perhaps, he said, C3I Atlas is the cosmic equivalent, an unknown form of creation that challenges our understanding of what's possible. As the object approached the sun, its significance grew. It was about to pass behind it, entering a period of invisibility known as solar occultation. During this time, sunlight and radiation could interact with its surface, revealing details about its composition and orbit when it reemerges. For astronomers, this was the most critical phase, the moment that could decide whether C3I Atlas was a simple comet or something extraordinary. Every major observatory from NASA and ESA to the Chinese National Space Agency prepared to monitor its trajectory. The International Asteroid Warning Network added C3I Atlas to its list of priority objects. Telescopes around the world synchronized their schedules, waiting for any spectral or orbital deviation. And yet, as it vanished behind the sun, the air of anticipation grew heavier. It was as if humanity was holding its breath, waiting for the sky to speak. When it comes to interstellar visitors, history offers few precedents. Only two have ever been recorded before: Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I Borisov in 2019. The first was a cigar-shaped enigma that accelerated without visible propulsion. The second behaved like a classic comet, confirming the existence of natural interstellar debris. But C3I Atlas was neither. It was something in between, a hybrid of logic and mystery, a paradox that defied physics yet obeyed its own hidden order. And perhaps, for the first time, humanity was looking at an object that didn't just pass through space, but came with intent. As days passed, speculation grew. Was it observing us? Was it scanning, mapping, or simply traveling? Or were we just projecting our fears and hopes onto a silent traveler that didn't even know we existed? For now, the only certainty was uncertainty. Somewhere beyond the reach of human eyes, behind the blinding glow of the sun, C3I Atlas continued its silent path, waiting to reappear, carrying the answer to a question humanity has been asking for centuries. Are we alone? When C3I Atlas disappeared behind the sun, the world's telescopes went silent. For nearly 2 weeks, there was nothing but the hum of data streams and static from solar interference. Every night, observatories in Chile, South Africa, Spain, and the United States pointed at the coordinates where the comet should reappear. The question lingered in every control room. Would it return the same way it left, or would it come back changed? Professor Avi Loeb was among those who waited restlessly. He wasn't alone. Across universities and space agencies, teams of astronomers worked around the clock, comparing spectroscopic models, recalculating trajectories, and debating the same haunting question: what if C3I Atlas wasn't behaving naturally? The idea seemed impossible, but the data kept suggesting it. Its orbit wasn't purely gravitational. Its acceleration patterns hinted at corrections, tiny course adjustments that no random body should make. When the object finally emerged from the solar glare, something was different. Its brightness had shifted more intense, more controlled. The color spectrum showed strange fluctuations, as if parts of its surface had reconfigured during the solar encounter. It didn't fragment as many had predicted. Instead, it seemed cleaner, sharper, more reflective. That was the moment when speculation turned into something close to fear. The tail had changed direction again. For a brief period, the so-called anti-tail pointed toward Earth. To most astronomers, that was an optical anomaly. But to others, it was a signal, an alignment, perhaps deliberate, with our planet's orbit. Avi Loeb presented his findings to the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. The numbers were precise, the implications disturbing. The object's acceleration was not consistent with outgassing or solar wind. It was deliberate, controlled, and repeated. If this is natural, he said, then nature is using mechanisms we have never seen before. Meanwhile, around the world, public fascination grew. News outlets called it the messenger, while conspiracy forums claimed it was an alien probe. Space agencies tried to stay cautious, using neutral language like anomalous interstellar body. But behind closed doors, even seasoned scientists whispered what they would never say publicly, that perhaps this object was responding to something. Spectroscopic scans from the European Southern Observatory showed spikes in nickel and cobalt ratios, materials used in advanced alloys on Earth. There was also a faint, rhythmic fluctuation in its light curve, repeating every 247 seconds. That rhythm wasn't random. It resembled a pulse, an internal oscillation, almost like a heartbeat. Some called it coincidence. Others didn't. Professor Javier Santaolalla, a physicist known for his skepticism, addressed the phenomenon on his popular science channel. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, he said. Yes, C3I Atlas is unusual. But unusual doesn't mean intelligent. We must avoid filling the gaps in our knowledge with fantasy. His video reached 500,000 views in one day. Yet, even he admitted that the anti-tail, the metallic composition, and the pulse-like pattern were scientifically provocative. In response, Loeb doubled down. He released a new paper comparing C3I Atlas to Oumuamua, arguing that both objects shared unnatural features, non-gravitational acceleration, low reflectivity, and lack of debris trails. But Atlas, he wrote, is a more complex case. It's larger, older, and exhibits an intentional path through the solar system. The phrase intentional path ignited controversy. NASA and ESA declined to endorse or refute the statement, but internal leaks hinted that a classified working group had been formed to monitor Atlas's movements independently. The International Asteroid Warning Network upgraded its alert level not because of a collision threat, but because of behavioral unpredictability. Behavioral unpredictability. The phrase sounded almost alive. Amid the noise, something subtle happened. Amateur astronomers around the world began reporting synchronized light variations from the object, brief flickers repeating in patterns. Some described it as a code, others dismissed it as random interference. But when the timing matched across 3 continents, the story took another leap into mystery. For the first time in history, an interstellar object appeared to communicate, if not intentionally, then at least systematically. Then, on November 16th, during a window of high solar activity, Atlas's brightness spiked by nearly 400%. For exactly 6 minutes, it outshone every other comet in the sky. When the flare ended, the brightness dropped back to baseline as if nothing had happened. The world was silent. Data from Brazil, Germany, and New Zealand confirmed identical readings. The pulse had been global. Within hours, emergency meetings were held at the International Astronomical Union. 11 countries signed a shared observation protocol to track Atlas simultaneously. The phenomenon was too precise to ignore, but just as quickly, the data vanished. Public access links to the new observations were pulled offline, replaced with identical statements from NASA, ESA, and CNSA. We are verifying the authenticity of recent measurements related to object C3I Atlas. For those who followed the story closely, the sudden blackout was more suspicious than reassuring. Meanwhile, leaked internal reports hinted that gamma-ray detectors in orbit had registered an unexpected burst aligned with Atlas's coordinates during the flare. Some claimed the pattern of energy release resembled a transmission structured intentional, limited to 12 seconds. 12 seconds. That became the new mystery. If it was a signal, it was aimed directly at Earth. Its frequency centered on the hydrogen line, 1,420 megahertz, the universal constant used by radio astronomers to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The signal repeated a sequence of 6 geometric shapes, hexagons, arranged around a central void. Some speculated it was a coincidence of plasma reflection. Others saw design. On social media, the event went viral under the hashtag number Atlas Anomaly. Amateur radio stations claimed to have picked up echoes. People began recording fluctuations in local magnetic fields. Even the Schumann resonance, the natural electromagnetic frequency of Earth, shifted slightly during the event. For scientists, it was both fascinating and unsettling. If the connection was real, it suggested that C3I Atlas had interacted with Earth's magnetic field. Avi Loeb, facing growing criticism, refused to back down. "It's not about belief," he said in an interview. "It's about observation. If the evidence leads somewhere extraordinary, we must follow it." Dismissing the unknown because it makes us uncomfortable is not science, it's denial. The world was now divided between believers and skeptics. Some said Atlas was a relic, drifting for billions of years, now awakening under solar radiation. Others claimed it was a probe, an artificial scout that had been waiting for this exact moment to reveal itself. As December approached, Atlas moved closer to Earth's orbit. Its next predicted position, between the orbits of Mars and our planet, roughly 1.8 astronomical units away. Its brightness grew again, its pulse continued, and the tail began to bend as if guided by invisible hands. At night, from the deserts of Chile and the peaks of Hawaii, telescopes tracked a faint blue shimmer surrounding the object, a kind of halo changing shape as if alive. Theorists proposed everything from plasma envelopes to magnetic fields, but none of it could explain the rhythmic synchronization detected between Atlas's light variations and subtle electromagnetic changes on Earth. In cities, people reported strange compass fluctuations. Migratory birds shifted their routes. Radio static increased. For the first time, humanity began to feel, not just observe, that something beyond understanding was near. Yet, through all the noise, one fact remained constant. C3I Atlas was heading toward its closest approach, December 19th. After that, it would slingshot past Jupiter and disappear forever into the dark beyond the solar system. Scientists called it a once-in-a-civilization event. Philosophers called it a mirror reflecting our curiosity, our fear, and our longing to know if we are not alone. And somewhere, beyond the hum of human machines, that silent traveler kept moving steady, deliberate, unexplainable. Every few minutes, its faint heartbeat echoed through the void. A whisper across billions of kilometers, as if counting down to something only it understood. December was coming. The world was watching. By the first week of December, the world's anticipation had reached a fever pitch. C3I Atlas was back in clear view, and every observatory on Earth was watching. Its movement had slowed slightly, as though the object were pacing itself, preparing for something. The latest orbital data confirmed what Loeb had suspected for months. The trajectory had changed. Not by much, only a fraction of a degree, but enough to rule out chance. Something had intervened. The object now traveled in near-perfect alignment with the ecliptic plane, the invisible path that planets follow around the Sunday. For many scientists, this was the final anomaly. Natural bodies don't correct their orbits, but C3I Atlas did. It was as if it had synchronized itself with the geometry of the solar system, an intentional act of calibration. When the images from the James Webb Space Telescope were released, the reactions were immediate. Instead of the rough, uneven texture typical of comets, the surface appeared unnaturally smooth. In infrared, it reflected heat in sharp, geometric patterns. Triangular sections glowed brighter than others, forming a grid-like signature that hinted at structure, perhaps panels, or layered surfaces of metallic origin. Loeb described it as industrial symmetry. Javier Santaolalla called it optical deception. The debate was global. Conferences streamed live across platforms, scientists arguing whether the data represented reflective minerals or engineered surfaces. But the more images came in, the less the natural explanation fit. Then, something unprecedented happened. During the night of December 9th, radio telescopes across Australia and South Africa detected a narrow, collimated radio beam originating from the coordinates of Atlas. It lasted exactly 12 seconds, the same length as the mysterious flare weeks earlier. The signal frequency once again matched the hydrogen line. Inside the waveform was an unmistakable geometric rhythm. 6 pulses arranged around a single gap, the same hexagonal pattern seen before. Governments went silent. NASA, ESA, and the Chinese National Space Administration all declined comment. Amateur astronomers who had recorded the event found their servers overwhelmed by traffic, and within hours, several data streams went offline. What little survived showed something more chilling. A faint echo coming from Earth itself, roughly 247 seconds after the original burst. It was as though the planet had answered. Schumann resonance detectors registered another minor fluctuation, the same 0.02 Hertz deviation recorded during the first pulse. Radio operators described brief distortions, static, aligning with the same 12-second rhythm. No one could explain it, but the phenomenon was real. At Harvard, Loeb's team analyzed the remaining fragments of the signal. The conclusion was cautious, but electrifying. The waveform was too structured to be random noise. It carried internal repetition, harmonics that suggested modulation. Whether it was intentional or natural remained uncertain, but the data didn't lie. "Something transmitted," he said quietly during a midnight interview, and something else responded. Across the world, the event was dubbed the Atlas Exchange. It became the most replayed and dissected signal in history, surpassing even the famous WOW signal of 1,977. But this time, It wasn't a brief anomaly lost in noise. It was repeatable, measurable, verifiable. As the days passed, Atlas continued its silent approach. On December 13th, new spectroscopic readings showed that the object's temperature fluctuated every 90 minutes, precisely synchronized with its brightness. It was behaving like a system in equilibrium, absorbing and releasing energy with perfect timing. Scientists coined the term feedback stabilization, suggesting that internal currents or layered materials were regulating its temperature like a living machine balancing itself in space. By December 17th, Atlas was close enough to be visible through amateur telescopes. Its color had changed once more, shifting from metallic gray to a faint electric blue. The tail had split into two filaments that twisted together, pulsating with light. Observers in Arizona, Italy, and Chile all reported the same thing. The object no longer looked like a comet. It looked like something awakening. Then came December 19th, the moment of closest approach. Humanity waited. News networks broadcast live coverage from observatories around the world. People gathered in city squares, staring up at the night sky, where Atlas shimmered just above the constellation Virgo. For a brief moment, the object brightened so much that it became visible to the naked eye, a tiny, radiant spark crossing the heavens. At 21:47 UTC, a burst of electromagnetic noise swept across multiple frequencies. Power grids flickered. Satellites briefly lost synchronization. GPS systems reset in several regions simultaneously. The disturbance lasted less than half a minute, but it was enough. When the instrument stabilized, Atlas was gone. Not destroyed, not fragmented, simply vanished. The coordinates where it had been were now empty. No debris, no trail, no trace of ionized gas. Astronomers checked infrared, radio, and gamma ray bands, nothing. It was as if the object had folded out of reality. The solar system had gone silent again. The aftermath was chaos. Within hours, theories filled every corner of the internet. Some claimed Atlas had activated a propulsion system beyond our understanding, perhaps using electromagnetic fields to bend space. Others believed it had entered a dormant phase, cloaked from detection. A few whispered of something more profound, that it had completed its mission. Avi Loeb faced the cameras once more. His expression was calm, but his voice carried gravity. If Atlas was a technological relic, he said, then what we witnessed tonight might have been its departure or its transmission. He paused. Either way, we are no longer the only observers in the cosmos. Meanwhile, other scientists urged restraint. Javier Santaolalla released a statement reminding viewers that extraordinary events often appear supernatural until the data is fully understood. It's not the end of science, he said. It's the beginning of a new one. For the next several weeks, observatories combed the sky for any sign of Atlas. None appeared. It had left no orbit, no reflection, nothing. But the echo of its signal continued, subtle electromagnetic oscillations, repeating faintly every 247 seconds. Some believed it was the after effect of the burst, a residual resonance bouncing through the solar magnetic field. Others wondered if it was still out there, sending from somewhere we couldn't see. In the months that followed, the debate split the scientific world. Was C3I Atlas an ancient artifact, perhaps a probe launched before humanity even existed, or was it a rare, natural object shaped by cosmic forces we still don't understand? No one could prove either side. The data was incomplete. The evidence tantalizing, but inconclusive. And yet, something had changed. The story of Atlas reignited public fascination with the stars. Astronomy clubs multiplied. Governments increased funding for deep space telescopes. A new generation of young scientists declared their ambition to find the next one. In classrooms, Children ask questions that adults could no longer answer with certainty. What if the universe was filled with travelers like Atlas, passing silently between suns, watching, recording, learning? Loeb published his final report in early 2026, a detailed chronicle of the object's behavior and the global reaction it sparked. He didn't call it proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. Instead, he called it evidence of potential design. His closing line became a mantra for dreamers and skeptics alike. Absence of certainty is not absence of meaning. As the years passed, the legend of C3I Atlas grew. Songs were written, documentaries aired. In observatories and lonely mountaintops, people still search the skies at night, hoping to glimpse another blue shimmer among the stars. Perhaps one day, something like Atlas will return. Perhaps it never truly left. For now, all that remains is the echo, the faint, repeating rhythm hidden in the fabric of the cosmos. Every 247 seconds, a whisper rolls across the dark, a heartbeat from beyond the stars, reminding us that the universe is not silent. It watches, listens, and perhaps, in ways we cannot yet imagine, remembers. And somewhere out there, far beyond the sun, a silver-blue traveler continues its journey, ancient, unhurried, and alive in our imagination, carrying with it the greatest question ever asked. Who sent it? And will it ever come back?